So welcome to the 20th Zurich Film Festival. My name is Olivia Kinghorst and I'm going to be hosting this master session. I have to say it's really wonderful to see all of you here. I know some of you might have work, but thank you for carving the time out to be here for ZFF Masters. Now, as you may know, this is really the chance where we get a deep dive with many leading figures in film to hear about their careers, all those anecdotes and stories that we might not typically hear about. And I'm really delighted to have the pleasure today to be able to sit down and speak with one of the most versatile actresses that we have. Her name is Alicia Vikander. Last night she received the Golden Eye Award, and if you have followed her work, she has starred in many colourful roles, from The Danish Girl, EX MACHINA, KARENINA, Tomb Raider, and of course her latest film, The Assessment. So every time you see her, she's wearing a very different hat. So with that, please make her feel at home and give a warm applause to Alicia Vikander.
To look up to you guys, but then I thought I might trip and fall. Wow, that's like a big
Make
suit.
yourself at home. Maybe just to kick off, why don't we do a little bit of Swedish first och främst?
Oh my God. I'm going to start
Zurich.
this interview because she just dropped before we walked in. She started to speak Swedish to me. And you've only been to Sweden once. And when I was like watching films and baking bread during COVID, she just picked up Swedish. How crazy is that?
Next time someone
some applause.
the next time someone asks me why would you even learn Swedish? Not many people speak it. I'll say, well, I got to speak with Alicia Vikander in the Swedish. But let's go back to the question. How are you? It's not your first time in Zurich. You've done this all before, back in 2017 at the film festival.
I'm so happy to be back. I couldn't believe, I kind of started to say when people asked me, it was like, oh, when were you here? I was like, yeah, it's like 3-4 years ago. And I realized, no, it's 7 yesterday. But no, I mean, this film festival is so known for, the way that, celebrating cinema and incredible people that they invite every year. So I was just so pleased when they asked me to come back, and especially it's nice being back with another female director, I would say with Lisa Langset, with our third collaboration back then, and Fleur Fortuné, it was amazing to see her on stage, and for the people who've seen the film, I think it's an incredible debut that she's done.
Speaking of the film, who has actually seen the assessment?
Oh, quite a few.
Okay.
Nice.
But not everyone. So when we have the discussion today, we don't want to give away too much. There is, by the way, a giant portrait of Alicia Vikander now hanging at frame. So when you go outside, you can have a look at that. But I think it's a testament to how things have changed. You've really taken on all these extraordinary roles since you last came here. Maybe if you can just give us a quick look at some of the highlights for you.
For me, wow. That's so hard. I mean, it's so interesting because, of course, there are films that have meant things from, for the beginning of my career. Obviously, like my first ever film I made in Sweden with Lisa Langset. I think the English title is Pure. That was obviously, the kind of film that in one way was the one that even people internationally saw. It went to a lot of festivals. And I think Joe Wright saw that film, and that was how I ended up having my first meeting with him, and that led to me making Anna Karenina. Then, obviously, A Royal Affair. That was, my first step into international filmmaking, and it was not in English, but it was in Danish. And obviously working with Mads Mikkelsen, at that point early in my career was, a huge thing. Wow, it's so hard to kind of go through films, but then it's interesting. It's like, I loved making I love making Tomb Raider. I thought that was, that was kind of making one of those films that I've been like growing up dreaming to want to be in, or I guess maybe because of my dancing background, getting to do the physical aspects of these action films was a pretty big thing. Obviously, Danish Girl will, change my life in the sense that it's still kind of I can't get my head around the fact that, I got that award, at that point. But it was kind of just, if anything, I was so young, but it just showed that I was on the right, on the road of making something that people really enjoyed, and that has been made it possible for me to continue to do not only bigger films, but also get the help to make these smaller films made, which I really care for. But in the end, it's kind of the months making these films that are the thing that I bring with me. It's not the final product so much. It's interesting. We talked about languages, and I made a film in Japan about 6 years ago. Earthquake Bird, and it's on Netflix. And it's not a tremendous amount of people who've seen it, but I think that is one film that to me will be up there because I just had the best time, and I got to go to and see a culture and experience, being in Tokyo for 4 or 5 months of my life. I got to try and, not as good as your Swedish, but I tried my best to learn as much Japanese as I could. And that is also another aspect of this thing. It's like I get to travel the world and meet creatives and filmmakers and see voices from other cultures, that really inspire me. That's also, why I was very excited to just go and do this project in Korea that is now in the making. It's in post right now, but it's a chance to not go as a tourist, but you're actually there working with locals and get to see the culture.
That's your research.
Yeah.
So that journey has brought you to here, and with your new film, The Assessment, I watched it last night and I thought I understood the film, and then this morning I had even more questions. When you watched the film back in full, is that how you feel? How does it resonate with you?
For me, it's probably more during the time when I'm actually like shooting it, because that is when I'm embodying it, and it's kind of. I mean, I would say it happened with most films. You sit at home and you're in your thoughts and imaginations, and it's not until you actually get on set and all the other components, which are the most important. It's like the people you act towards and with, and suddenly the scenes just kind of become alive, and it's partly that's kind of the magic of like. It's just happening. It's like beyond your control, because it's I think that I had that when I was shooting it. When I finally came to seeing the cuts or edits that Fleur shared with me, then it's just kind of been narrowing down to what we realized on set, I think.
It's a dystopian science fiction film, and in this future world and in the society, parents have to undergo quite a vigorous test and prove themselves that they're worthy of being parents. When you first received the script, what went through your mind?
I actually had an experience when I read it, like it was a page turner, and that kind of rarely happens to me when I read scripts. It kind of realized itself in front of me immediately, and I was, surprised by this kind of like thriller aspect that I felt from the get-go of me trying to figure out what, especially maybe the character that I'm playing, Virginia, what her intentions were and why she's in this and why she's putting this couple through this, or. And that I felt like you never really know where it was going, And then knowing that Fleur was attached, and I'd done all my research and seen all the like short films and music videos that she had made, and I was kind of blown away by the confidence in her filmmaking and also the very visual aspects that she's brought to all of her work. So I was, and then I met her on a Zoom, and it is like a thing because, you know, going into a film and knowing it's a first-time filmmaker, it's definitely like, you know, I was hesitant at first, and then it took me just 2 hours on a Zoom with her, and we couldn't stop talking, and it was incredible. Well, it was incredible because, you know, it very often can take somebody, a filmmaker, a few films before they truly have that confidence, or you feel that they know exactly what they want, and that they have this film fully realized in their head. And she did. Obviously, she did also had, you know, she had a lot of years leading up to when I spoke to her, when she had been trying to get this made and when she had worked on the script. But it was just like this kind of very easygoing calmness in her. That's the kind of confidence. It's like, you know, she just knew that this is her film and this is what she's going to do. And then suddenly I was very excited to be able to step into that world with her.
I know you have a very special bond with Fleur Fortuné, who is the director of the assessment. Talk to us about how that interaction played out from the first Zoom, and also on set. Was there a lot of back and forth and collaboration there?
I mean, it kind of starts in, you know, I met another, you know, woman that I was just thoroughly impressed by her. And then I think one thing that happened that's quite funny is actually the second Zoom we had, we were sitting there working, and you do that thing, you're like, oh, where are you in the world, you know? And it turns out I'm actually in France because I've had a country house there for over 10 years in a very small village. It's like 2,000 people who live there. And then she's like, wow, I'm coming down there tomorrow. I just bought a place. That's like another random thing. So we ended up doing the rehearsals in this small French village where we now both have a house by coincidence. No, but I think she's just, you know, she's with that confidence that I was talking about. She's also extremely like open, and you know, she with the other talent, you know, in behind the camera that she brought together, you could just sense that she had a very kind of easygoing relationship with everyone, and that's the way that I admire. She picks the right people for the job, and then she lets them get on with it. You know, it's like about, you know, creating an atmosphere where everyone feel like they can do their best work. And it's the same thing for an actor. You know, sometimes someone can ask me, it's like, but you know, the best directors, what do they do? And I was like, they do the least, to be honest. It's like, it's facilitating. It's like, you know, it's being the head of, you know, the person overseeing it, knowing what it is, giving everyone the confidence that she knows what she's doing. And if they would turn to her, she would have the answer. But other than that, people will be able to kind of, in all the fields, because it's such a machinery making movies, you know, like the sound department, video village, everyone will feel like they get to do what they do best. And same thing as an actor, you know, I felt like she created the space, and we had a lot of conversations and rehearsals, not a lot of rehearsals, but a lot of conversations at least leading up to us starting the shoot, where I feel we felt free to explore and try a lot of things.
In past interviews, you say you love research and researching the role ahead of time. So for the assessment, how do you prepare for the role of Virginia? And what is your style of preparation?
It's interesting. I think sometimes it's quite like boring and tedious, just in the sense that most people don't like. I spend a lot of time now when I have like my 3-year-old is like wondering what's going on because I'm always locking the door, and I sit in this room and I talk to myself, and you know, I read books or I watched YouTube clips. I mean, there was a lot of things going between Fleur and I with this character. She even like, it's kind of a very, it's a I tried, I had to physically embody. It's almost like different roles within a role, and knew that it was a physical part. So Fleur and I could even like send images of like people's shapes, or we send YouTube clips of children playing or our own children. There was a lot of different like external inspiration, but when I did this film, it was a lot of things that appeared on set that came from a very internal place. It was almost like I got to it was moments when it was almost like I had these snippets of memories, or I did things with my body that I thought, oh, I've forgotten about this, but there's like something within me that unconsciously feels that this of course is you. It was just a younger version of you. So I kind of found inspiration from quite deep within, I think. Yeah.
What were some of the most memorable parts of filming and scenes? You're a parent yourself, and this film deals with quite sensitive questions because these people in the film are trying to, or they want to have a child.
Yes, I think there was a moment when we in the like 2-3 weeks in, when I had to do a scene which is set in the kitchen of this house, and it's kind of the first time when you see a different side to Virginia. And I remember reading that when I read it on the page, and I was like, because as any good kind of film script, it's not too much stage directions, but at all. And then it's just these lines and like snippets of behavior and then I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to, you have to kind of go for it. And that was one day when I walked in on set, and I had the feeling, and I think most actors have that. I always have it on the first day of shoot. Like still, I'm so nervous because you've been home with your own like creation every time, and then suddenly you have like the crew, and you're like, ta-da! This is it. I've been thinking about doing. I always feel like that a little bit. But with this role, I had that, on the first day. But then on this particular day, I felt like the whole crew was like, what is she gonna do? It's like, how's this gonna play out? But then when I kind of ripped the Band-Aid off and tried to explore, it was fun.
How much improvisation goes into these roles? I mean, you mentioned that scene just now. When you did the first take versus the last take, did they look very different?
Not very different. You rehearse. I mean, it's like it goes different ways, but I kind of knew that I had to just get up on a certain kind of level of intensity, and it was more about daring to do that in front of people, and then when I did, it kind of, like I said earlier, it kind of started to feel weirdly natural. It's like, yeah,
that's a good
maybe
sign, right?
I was like, no, I get this, I totally, and it was nice. I mean, it's kind of like a very kind of core behavior that I think, it comes from out of frustration or pure happiness. It's actually even more, it's unfiltered. You see what I mean? So you kind of, you actually try and make it as real as possible.
And when you finish these films, do you like to take a step back, have a breather, or switch genres? Or what do you like to do after the film?
I mean, that's kind of me every day on set. When I'm done, I'm like, I get very tired. It's if anything, it's acting is it is a physical and emotional draining job, and some actors, I mean, I kind of enjoy seeing how a lot of your colleagues, of other people, have their own way of working. For me, I kind of had to leave that, in the room, and then I need to like not be with work when I step out. I have to go back and cook dinner and get back to normal life, and then be able to kind of have the energy to go back into it the next day. And then, I mean, now when I have 2 young children. Yeah, because I was pregnant when I was filming this film. You know, that is kind of what most of my time, where most of my time goes, to be honest, when I'm not working.
A lot of the things that we see about you come from all the successes in recent years, but I'd like to just take a walk down memory lane. You grew up and you were raised in Göteborg in Gothenburg in Sweden. Can you share some of maybe the childhood acting stories that we might not find if we just Googled you?
I'm sure it's on Google. I mean, everything is on
if you dig deep
now. I grew up with my mom, who was a stage actress most of my time, and then I was the kind of child who got brought up in the wings, and I saw her work, and one of the first thing was that it was like a poster up apparently at the theater about that they were auditioning for a musical, and it was like the other actors' children that were probably aged 9, 10, and they were all going, and I was like 5. And I mean, I don't remember this. It's just my mom telling me. But, you know, and I had, you know, I wanted to go too, because it was from 5 to 12, you know. And then she said, there's no way. And I totally get her now, you know. It's like, I don't think I would do that myself. But apparently I just had a tantrum for about 2 weeks. I wonder, maybe that's where it comes from. Yeah, so I had that for 2 weeks, and in the end, she just let me go, and then I did get one of the parts, and it was Bjorn and Benny from ABBA, who of course did, you know, Chess and Mamma Mia the musical, but Kristina from Du Vemola is probably the biggest hit in Sweden. So that was a musical that they made based on a very known novel about Swedish immigrants who, during the famine, traveled to America. So you follow this family and their story. So I played one of the children, and I actually ended up playing all the children, because I started off as the youngest one, and then each year I became an older one. So I did it for half of my life then at 10 when I finished. And that was pretty tough. I mean, because it was like 2,000 people full every night. So I did that for 5 years. Yeah.
We also got to see a tribute reel of you yesterday. It shows all the different sides that you've played and all the versatility you've shown in your characters, from Danish Girl, EX MACHINA. Like I could just go on here. But what do you look for in potential roles and in the script?
To be honest, the filmmaker is the main reason, and the people involved. With this script, it was, you know, I was like, wow, that is, you know, something you could, you know, I really thought that I could do something with that and have fun. But I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for Fleur. And with, you know, the kind of choices, I think that is something that has dawned on me, like, over the, at least, you know, past several years. It's like, you know, going back to what we talked about, like, it's not the final film, it's the experience, and like, I want to go into it feeling like I believe in it, and I'm in a group where everyone has that same feeling. But it's also, it's like, it's kind of the director's vision that you're stepping into mainly. And, you know, sometimes the script can be, you know, need some work, but if you're in a true filmmaker's like world, then things might fall into place. So you know, that's where I kind of put my bets.
So what does that process look like? I mean, you might think a script is great, but do you then ask, look, I want to have a sit down, I want to have a Zoom and
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for sure. I mean, that is where the whole work kind of where it begins. So I did have a few like long Zooms with Fleur, and then obviously it's that combined with me watching. Yes, it's her debut film, but if you go online, she's done a lot of work. So I didn't kind of feel like you know, and it was clear on the first day on set. I mean, this woman knows exactly what she's doing. She's been here tons before. So that was also what I realized. It wasn't really like I felt like this is an ingenue. You know, she was at home on that stage.
And since you have done such a mixed bag of films, is there one that you think really changed the course and path of where your career went? I know you've done, you know, you've won awards. They can be the most successful, but is there one that hits home for you?
I mean, I mentioned several of them that, you know, especially in the beginning, you know, that obviously because, you know, just the first, they changed my life, you know, or making even Joe Wright's film, my first English-speaking film, just opening up that door. Back then, it was like Noomi Rapace with Girl from the Dragon Tattoo. I didn't have any reference of anyone, a, you know, young woman. Like now, it's amazing to see how international, you know, actors get to work on a more international stage. But then, of course, Ex Machina is a film that, you know, it's kind of have already kind of become a cult film and has a huge following kind of still, and people who love the film. I love the film, and the way that kind of, for being such a small, tiny, independent film, which it was, that actually came out in theaters and went down because no one saw it. And then A24, big production company in America, that was their first film. And they said that they couldn't believe that, you know, it was like it hadn't been seen before. So they took it to South by Southwest the year after. And then suddenly the film kind of became a hit and went back to theaters.
How do you respond when a film doesn't take off?
To be honest, like, I mean, you go in and you make these films, and obviously all I want is for as many people as possible to watch them. But nowadays, it's also very different because people are watching films at home. We've had a lot of discussions about that now, and how, you know, I think the work that these film festival, the Zurich Film Festival is doing is so important, because I love cinema. I want these places and the cinemas to exist, but we're moving into a new era when people, including myself, are, you know, people have good home, you know, big TVs, big home cinemas, and the world just starts to look different. So now when people can, you know, now when streamers can pick some of these independent films up and make them still be able to exist by putting them on streamers and then making a lot of people watch them, I think that's, you know, obviously a positive thing too. Yeah.
Now, you've made your mark as an actress, but I also have to mention you were back here with EUPHORIA in 2017. You're also venturing into producing. What is it like to wear that hat instead?
I think it's also kind of the nature of what our industry starts to look like more and more now. I love it because you know, the joy of being able to find the people that that you want to work with, to be more in control, to find and develop material that you want to do. It's also interesting. I mean, I think my agent is here somewhere in the back. Oh, there. Hi, Teresa. You know, we've had a lot of discussions about how, you know, a few years back, it was about Teresa giving me a call and like, oh, so this is film and it's greenlit to go whatever months next year, and these are the roles, and, you know, and that's just like not how things are made anymore. So now it's all about like all the things that I'm looking at doing next. They're all things that are kind of in development. You have to put together the team, the actors, the director, producers, and then you go and sell them and find your distribution and financiers. So, but that also, you know, it's hard because it's a lot more work, and you realize that it's like so difficult for films right now to kind of be made, and especially for the kind of films that I love, the dramas that are in a certain bracket of budget. But what I realized too, on the other hand, is that it kind of gives me the joy and gives a bit of like right and equity back to the artists, because they need to be the work of putting it all together and then go as a team to get the funding.
Do you have any plans to produce another film soon?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
No, I don't know.
Is she allowed to?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No. But yeah, it's a few things, and I'm you know, and talking about how this process actually maybe even make me even more excited about making them.
It's interesting as well, because the production company, you came out with the intention also of elevating women behind, in front of the camera. Earlier this week, we sat down with Kate Winslet, and she was also talking about the shifts in the industry. What do you see right now?
Well, it's interesting because I was here, and then I've been kind of like positive about feeling like the climate is changing, but then I get to hear still how there's just a lot more work for men in comparison to women, and that's just the reality. But I think therefore it's not I think it's more about making the effort to feel like you're giving the space for these female voices to come forward. I don't make my decision based on if it's a man or a woman directing it, but I do make the effort of making sure that I kind of open my eyes to female directors. So I have those options being put in front of me. And I just finished a film 2 weeks ago in New York with another female director, and had, again, an incredible experience and had so much fun. And yeah.
So talk to us about the recent filming. What's on your plate now?
So that film is called The Last Day, and it's inspiration. It's kind of a modern take on Mrs. Dalloway. So it's set in like now and during a day in this woman's life, a life in a day in New York. And then I just a few weeks after I had my second baby, I went to Korea to do this small. It's a smaller part in this Korean film. It's more in case it's like a part one. If we continue further with this film, my character would kind of develop into something much bigger. But I got to work with director Hong Jin-na, who I've been a huge admirer for many years. The Busan Film Festival was actually my first ever international film festival outside of Sweden that I ever went to. I was 21 with my first film.
Busan is very different to Gothenburg.
No, it was. And it was like I was put on a flight. I was 21 and I had never been to Asia ever. And I landed there at the festival. And I remember, because I grew up, watching images from Cannes, and that was like the dream, of getting to experience. And then I kind of got to Busan. I was like, oh my God, so there's a Croisette here. And it's maybe even bigger than Cannes. So it was quite an experience. But I was just like running around for 4 or 5 days watching lots of films. And that's also when my kind of love for Asian cinema kind of started,
So now that you've gone around the world, seen a lot, do you see yourself returning to your roots in any more of these Swedish or Nordic productions?
So I am actually developing what would be a Danish-Swedish collab. It's still very early in the making, but that is because I've had a hope and dream to finally go back and speak Swedish again. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think since we do have this intimate space, I think we should just take the opportunity and open up the floor to questions. We do have, I believe, microphones going around. Okay. That's a big hand. So
hi.
Please.
Oh, nice. Now I can see you too.
Also introduce yourself.
Wait a second.
Okay, let's bring the microphone over so we can all hear you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so, well, my name is Ana Leal. I'm gender equality coach, and I resonate a lot with what you just said about how many places are open for women in all industries, not only in cinema, you know. Well, I'm very grateful that you are here today, and it was possible to come here to see you and listen what you think. And I have a couple of questions. I have followed your career since you did. Okay, well, so
at the top of your
basically,
list?
what is success for you?
Sorry? Can you
I have 5 questions, but
no, but
since
one. I didn't hear the one question.
I can only. What is
Yeah.
success for you?
Success. Oh, getting to do what I love. You know, I had a moment like that. I was actually, speaking, to some friends. This was just a few weeks ago, and I think especially as a woman too, I had my second child, and it's like an incredible time there in you too. We've been talking about it, but it was also, I love my work, and I love being a mother, but I need to do both. And then I was able to, I brought my children over, my family was with me, but then it was the first time. And since I made assessment, apart from those 2-3 weeks in Korea, but when I was back on this film set, and I was just like on set, and it was commotion, there was a lot of people, and we had no time, and it's like another very small indie film. But I just like had a moment, and I looked at it, I was like, wow, I'm so happy. I get to do what I really love, and like filmmaking is just, the best. So that is success. That's what I felt then and there. Thank you.
A question here at the front. Okay, we already have another question.
Hi.
We can come to you.
Hi.
I'm Mariam. I'm an actress/engineer, and I have a question for you. For me, it would be really interesting to know what you're thinking before, like when you're on set and before you start the scene, like what you're thinking in the moment, and also to be alive in every second of it. So that's really, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's it's a good question. I think it's interesting. I mean, there's days when you know that you're gonna do more kind of emotional scenes, or it doesn't have to be sad, but like bigger emotions that you're gonna kind of inhabit. And I feel like then it's always an extra bit of nerves that goes into those days, because it's like what the scene needs to kind of get for the film to work. It's almost like when you read the script, you're like, well, this is kind of the arc of the film, and it's not just my character, it's like what the film might need. And then you come in and you're like, well, we have only like 3 hours, and we kind of need to hit that. We need to have these different options to bring with us to the edit, or for the director to have. And then I listen a lot. I use music. Sometimes I need to like shut off, and also because when you shoot films, you make a scene and a take, and then it's a lot of things happening in between that might move the camera, lights, and everything, and that is where I need to like preserve my energy. That's what I think is the hardest to do. It's not like it's to kind of keep yourself within the moment between the different takes and setups. Then I think I kind of close off, and I'm very much just with myself in that moment. But then when the scene's done, then I can go out and have a coffee again. Yeah.
Yes. Let's take the question at the front, and then I believe at the top from the gentleman. Oh, there's another one there. Okay. Well, there's a queue going around. Yes, stand up.
Hi, I'm Anya. I have a question referring to FIREBRAND, where you absolutely redefined the role of Catherine Parr, showing her not as a nurse, not as just the last wife, but as a sharp intellectual, the person who shaped the future queen. So I would like to ask you do you have any other biographies, her stories, that you would like to produce or portray, or do you think are there some other aspects of female experience, her stories that you would like to put the focus on to reshape them or to put a new lens?
I don't right now. It's not, and to be honest, I mean, the FIREBRAND came to me in the sense that they sent me the script, and I think even like with Kareem Aynush, the director, he's Brazilian. I'm Swedish. We ended up having a lot of discussions first because most what I knew about the Tudor times was things that I've already seen in films or TV series. I think I realized that I probably knew the least about Catherine Parr in comparison to the other wives. And then you kind of realize that that seemed like it was the general feeling, and maybe that's just shows humans are more interested in like the grim stories and just the fact that she survived. She never really got her place, you know, or light in history. But you know, the one thing that just blew my mind, and that it turned out that most people do not know, and not even my like friends in England or the UK, is that she was the first woman in British history to ever publish under her own name 500 years ago. And that is never, like no one knows that. And I was like, that just shows how, you know, a lot of these female history stories have just been kind of erased. And she's mostly just known to like have been taken care of, Henry VIII. So, I mean, it was an experience. I love bringing her story to the screen, and I hope I will find, you know, more of them will come in the future.
Thank you. Then we have one question over here.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Tony. You before said that the best directors, they see the list. And so I was wondering if you have if you could share any stories or any adjustments or directions you received in the past where a director thought he was being very helpful by saying it and that he actually wasn't, and any that were...
Okay, I'm going to give you some names. No.
Without names, without names.
What I mean is, I think in a relationship with a director, you create a relationship and an understanding and a way of communicating. And when a director lets you, you know, show you and, you know, what they've been doing, what they're trying to do, it's when I feel the director can give me a direction, but it's something about knowing, when I know that the person saw what I was doing, even if it didn't hit the mark, that's when I know that there's an, you know, emotional intelligence that is like, you know, communicated between you two. And then if he actually like saw what I was doing, then he maybe only need to give me a very key, you know, addition or thought or input, or come in with this instead. And then that maybe opens up my own work. I guess it's like, you know, it's when you have directions that are kind of already what you're doing. It's hard to describe, but yeah, it's that thing of feeling like the director does see the journey that you're internally on.
Hello, I'm a bit nervous, so I'm going to
Hi,
fumble
don't
a lot.
be. Welcome.
I would just like to know, you know, you dwelled into European cinema, Asian cinema, and American cinema. I would like to know the differences between these three industries. You know, how does the storytelling evolve, and how do you adapt to the changes?
You know, I don't know if it's, you know, it's different in the sense that it's like, it's just what it is. It's like if you open up the door to diversity, if it's women or men, it's not like, I think that, you know, I think the Asians, Americans, and Europeans, and men and women, they can all go and tackle the same story. But when you open up the door and you don't make it narrow, you will find new artists emerge and new voices appear. And I think, you know, one thing, Asian cinema, that was something that I noticed, you know, already back then. And I think what we look to, you know, the world is kind of looking to, you know, Korea right now. And it's like they have the possibility of like kind of not following maybe rules, unwritten rules that we didn't even know that we were following, in the sense that you're like, can you do about what we define as genres? They don't really do that. it's like you can go and have a film that is extremely funny, absurd, terrifying, scary, emotional, and and you're like, oh, that's nice. There's like, and that made me more realize, oh, have we put ourselves in a box of what you can do, whilst they just haven't even thought of it, I don't know if that was an answer to a question.
Question down here first, and then we've got another one here.
Hello, my name is Tanya from an online magazine Backstage in Switzerland. I have a question for assessment. How was the work with the other cast stars? Because your character, has mainly interaction with the two other main characters, and it's really based on this triangle between these three emotions, three people. How was working on that compared to other movies where you have a lot of co-stars, a lot of extras, a lot of people on set?
I mean, it's kind of. I think for actors, it's a wonderful setting to have that kind of almost. It's almost like a chambre piece. It's almost like what I imagine being on stage is a bit like, because we were able to get very close. I mean, the difficult thing is, like you said, on film, sometimes when the film I just did in New York, actually, my character meets all these different people throughout her day, and I was impressed by these incredible actors that came in and did quite long scenes, but they only come in for one day, and then the next day I have another actor, and that is, just tricky because you need to fast track this work relationship super fast. Whilst on a film like this, you have the possibility to actually get to know each other, feel like it's a very kind of open and safe, space where you dare to try things out, or you can, between you two, you can do a scene and it feels like it's very easy to chat about if you want to try something else, or so and also, I mean, Himesh and Lizzie play husband and wife, and just to have the time to actually get to create that imaginary relationship together, I'm sure it meant a lot that they did have that time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalia. I'm an actress, German actress, and first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I really loved IRMA VEP. It was a really breathtaking series, and
I loved making that
so
much.
It was so
Had
great.
so much fun.
Really, every episode, I really celebrated that. And I'd like to know, how do you prepare your scripts, and how do you keep focused over so many episodes?
I mean, the incredible thing with that is, so Olivier Assayas is the writer and director of this TV series that I made, and he, very often in TV nowadays, you end up, having different directors. So you maybe divide 10 episodes into 5 blocks, and you have the first 2 with one director, then they go and edit those, and then you continue on the next. And sometimes these scripts even end up coming in, throughout the time whilst you're shooting, so you don't really know where it's going. I had already said yes, because I had been dying to work with Olivier for a long time, and I'm such a fan of his work. So I had said, when he just asked if I wanted to, I was like, yes. And that was before I had read anything. But then he started to send me the scripts. They started to come in, and we got the finance. But all the scripts came in, before we started to shoot, which meant that I can't remember now if it was 8, 9, or 10, somewhere there. And then we shot, which is very uncommon, the entire set of episodes like an independent film. So I was walked in and, scene 12, episode 2, and then I walked in and scene 42, episode 9, straight after. So I was jumping a lot. And it was, to a start, it was quite daunting. I was thinking, where am I and what am I doing? Especially because the character herself is also going through, a lot of different characters. I played an actress preparing for it. It's very meta, this TV series. But I give that to Olivier, to be honest. I mean, I would definitely a lot of days wondered like, where am I? What am I doing right now? But then, of course, when you kind of get in, maybe the first like 6 weeks done, then you start to kind of, you know, because you've been in it, you've like actually inhabited these different parts of the series. And then I started to calm down a bit and felt like I was in control.
So the last question.
My name is Matilda, and my question is, how many languages does your children speak?
Ah, good question, Matilda. Thank you so much for being here and for that thing. I'm, well, my 6-month-year-old doesn't speak much language just yet, but my 3-year-old speaks 3.5 since this summer, which is more than me. He speaks Portuguese, Swedish, and English. And yeah, since this summer, he was hanging out with some children, and suddenly Spanish is now
a thing.
Yeah, a thing too. But yeah, so he's giving me language courses right now.
How many do you speak? 5.
Yes, I do understand a tiny bit of French, but yeah, I'll jump on that train with you too. Amazing. Well, good luck. Next time I'm back, you can ask me a question in French, and I'll hopefully be able to answer it back in French too.
Look, I know that they said that was the last question, but I do have a final question for you. When you're not filming, you're kicking back, you're lying on the couch, it's a Saturday evening with your family, what do you like to watch?
Ooh, oh wow.
I know you also love a good board game, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, what I like to watch. I'm just thinking what I'm a big consumer of TV. You know, in like, you know, everything from Netflix to Apple. You know, I love watching movies, but then, you know, I think especially having a young family at home, I'm you know.
So you scroll through the top 10 films that day.
Yeah, but I mean, then also, I mean, I'm very fortunate. So just around this time, actually, and when I'm going to go back now, and now they've like, it's so modern right now, because if you're part of the academy, you have the privilege of practically be able to watch every film that's come out. And during this time of the years when they all come out, and before they send you these DVD, you know, so you had like a pile of films you had to go, and nowadays you just have an app. So, yeah, it's like a treasure. People like my friends come over and they were like, oh, is that the Academy app on your Apple TV? I was like, It has every single film that came out this year.
You'll have to show us this later. So everyone put your hands together for Alicia Vikander.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.